Two videos in one day. Um, I've yeah, had a busy day, um, and so I just want to get straight on with this because I think my battery's gone a bit low. Um, my battery is feeling a bit low because I've been sort of mentally busy all day. Um, and I was on my last video, I was talking about sort of waking up each morning with a different attitude, a fresh attitude, something to do with you know. You know, getting happy and sort of and getting on with the day's things, and I've done that today. But I think what can sometimes trip people up is this idea of the main idea of this particular video today. And it focuses around this idea of releasing your expectations. Now, it sounds a bit sort of almost counterintuitive because a lot of the transformational world will speak of things like the law of attraction and sort of ask, believe, receive. Really believe that you go out and start chasing what it is you want and your desires. And then I'm talking about releasing your expectations. So I kind of want to explain that a little bit. What I mean by that is, and this is a kind of a Buddhist stroke Zen idea, that our past interactions with people, things that have happened before, people we've met, the way that certain situations have gone, tend to sort of inform our belief system. So we kind of think, well, this is how these things normally work. Only based on your past, I suppose, and so you start to get this kind of picture of how things are going to go. But what it also does, it kind of gives you a kind of skewed worldview. So when you are perhaps in a certain situation, you go back to your past and think, "Oh, how did I do this last time? Yeah, well, that's obviously the way it's gonna happen this time." And so you get into this cycle of beliefs, this skewed idea that it's all going to go wrong every time I try something different, or I try to lose some weight, or I try to go down a different path. Then the only frame of reference I think you've got is to go into your past, which isn't always necessarily the best position to approach change from. And so this Zen idea is to approach things in a way where they call it the empty cup, or the beginner's mind, is mentioned quite a lot in Buddhism. And essentially, you're going to each new experience, and in this situation, it would be something that you might want to change. That you would go to it with an open perspective, an empty cup. We sometimes go on these seminars, or we go maybe into watching these videos or reading some of these books with, I suppose, a clutter of previous information, and think and kind of skim through some of the detail and say, well, yeah, I know that already, and I've read that before, and yeah, and sort of coming to a new part of your life with maybe a bag full of things that aren't necessarily going to be helpful. So you need to come in a kind of empty way. And I think that's always the best way to learn something. You can also come, as is mentioned in some of the literature, and look at things in a child's way, approach it with a child's eyes, in such a way that you think that you've never had this experience before, and it's going to be a wonderful situation. You can see that sense of awe with children when they're given a new project to do. I can mention to my boys, today we're going to learn how to use the washing machine, and there will be a sense of awe about it, or whatever. And I think it's opening the way of transformation a little bit more. And also, we talk a lot about being present as well in that particular system of change. I think you've got to be there where you are coming to something with all these strategies, which are fantastic. Um, and be present in the change part of it. Don't dip in 1 minute and dip out the next, and then have a little bit of something that you've read in a book. Be present with the discipline that is happiness, the discipline that is change. And we get this. I mentioned it at the beginning here. We get into this cycle of old beliefs and old ways of being, and I think it's also mentioned as a kind of a frozen um, world view where you've gone into this cycle of consistently disappointing situations. Uh, so you think, oh, that's all. It's always going to be like this, and you've got to try and break that cycle. And these are nice little tools to do that. Things like the Zen side of it, the child's eyes, um, and just coming to really change with a new approach. And I spoke about that this morning. You have a shower and you wash off yesterday's dirt, yesterday's perhaps mistakes where you've been a little bit hard on yourself, and we start again. Um, and the sort of the final bit I want to sort of put into this group of ideas is discarding, for want of a better word, and the way it's described in some of the literature is discarding fixed fantasies about how things should be. Again, it's all about this past idea, marrying the perfect woman. It could be getting a particular kind of education, therefore you would follow that you would get a particular kind of job, etc., etc. Breaking the bonds and the bounds of your imagination and saying, who said, who was it who said that somebody can't be successful if they've got a poor education? Somebody can't be a public speaker if they haven't got the required documentation behind them. It was once. Well, it's been proved people in the transformational field haven't all come from prestigious colleges. They can be singers, they can be dancers, they can be teachers, they can be taxi drivers. There's a lot of really good, authentic people out there that are making a name for themselves in the transformational field and making huge differences in people's lives. So I think you've got to be flexible in your approach, really, by discarding these fixed fantasies of how things should be. And so ultimately, it comes down to some basics, really, I think, change in times of change. And I think that is it's being flexible, it's being open. Talk about this a lot. It's letting go. Um, they talk about uh, in addictions and things like that. Alcoholics Anonymous talk about letting go and letting God, and so you've basically got to be letting go of these old belief systems, approaching things in a very fresh and a new way. A perfect way to do that is obviously every morning, as I was talking about this morning, and do what makes you happy. At the very base level, if you feel a bit vulnerable and you're thinking, I really don't know which way to go, and you get into this inertia, then I think ultimately